My father told me women were too emotional to run businesses the day he handed our family company to my brother. I'd worked there for 8 years while Tyler partied through college. What Dad didn't know was that I'd already registered my own LLC, poached 3 of his best clients, and had a business plan that would make his company obsolete. Before we continue, make sure you subscribe, like, and share this story, because what happens next will leave you absolutely stunned. The meeting happened in Dad's office at Dalton Manufacturing in Phoenix, the industrial equipment supply company my grandfather had started in 1972. I was 31, Tyler was 28, and Dad was about to make the biggest mistake of his career. "Alexis, Tyler, sit down." Dad gestured to the chairs across from his desk. "I'm 67. It's time to think about succession planning." I'd been VP of operations for 3 years. Before that, I'd worked my way up from inventory management to sales to logistics. I knew every client, every vendor, every process. I'd increased revenue by 43% over 5 years. Tyler had been Director of Business Development for 18 months, a position Dad created for him after he finally graduated college at 26. His main accomplishment was hosting client golf outings and attending trade shows. "I've decided," Dad continued, "to make Tyler the new CEO, effective immediately. I'll transition to chairman, but Tyler will run day-to-day operations." I felt like I'd been slapped. "What?" The word came out sharper than I intended. "Tyler's ready. He's got the vision, the charisma, the leadership qualities. I've been running operations for 3 years. I've grown this company." "You've been managing operations. There's a difference between managing and leading." "What's the difference?" Dad leaned back in his chair, choosing his words carefully. "Tyler has the temperament for leadership. You're excellent at execution, Alexis. But running a company requires a certain steadiness, emotional control." "Emotional control," I repeated. "Women tend to be more emotional. It's not a criticism, it's biology. Tyler can make tough decisions without getting personally invested." I looked at my brother. Tyler had the decency to look uncomfortable. "Lex, you'll still be VP. We'll be a team. A team where your CEO and I report to you. Someone has to be in charge," Dad said. "And I believe Tyler is better suited for that role." "Because he's a man?" "Because he has the right qualities. This isn't about gender, Alexis. It's about capability." I stood up. "I have an MBA from Stanford. Tyler barely graduated from Arizona State. I've increased revenue 43%. Tyler planned 3 golf tournaments. But he has the right qualities?" "Leadership isn't about credentials. You're right, it's about results. And my results speak for themselves." "Alexis," Dad's voice hardened, "this is my decision. You can accept it and continue as VP, or you can choose another path." The threat was clear. Accept your demotion or leave. I looked at Tyler again. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Another path sounds perfect," I said. I walked out of Dalton Manufacturing that day and never went back. That night, I finalized the paperwork for Apex Industrial Solutions, the company I'd been planning for 6 months, since I'd overheard Dad telling a golfing buddy that he'd never let a woman run his company. I'd seen it coming. I'd already contacted 3 of Dalton's biggest clients I'd personally landed and maintained. I'd built relationships with them over years. When I called to tell them I was starting my own company, all 3 agreed to move their business to me. That was 40% of Dalton's annual revenue. Then I called Sarah Brennan and Marcus Liu, 2 of Dalton's best salespeople who I'd mentored. Both were frustrated with the company's old-school culture and jumped at the chance to join a startup with equity stakes. Within 2 weeks of leaving Dalton Manufacturing, I had 3 major clients under contract, 2 excellent employees, a line of credit from a bank that had reviewed my business plan, office space in a modern building with room to grow. I named Tyler as VP at my company, because apparently I was more qualified to lead than to follow. Actually, I didn't. I ran my company solo for the first year, working 90-hour weeks, taking every sales call, negotiating every contract. Tyler called me twice in the first month. "Lex, come back. This is crazy. You're throwing away your career." My career at Dalton ended when Dad decided having a penis was more important than having competence. That's not fair. Isn't it? Tell me, Tyler, honestly, do you think you're more qualified to run that company than I am? Silence. That's what I thought. Year 1 was brutal. I grossed $800,000 in revenue. Not enough to pay myself much, but enough to prove the concept worked. Year 2, I hit $2.4 million. Hired 4 more people. Moved to a bigger office. Year 3, I hit $4.7 million. Opened a second location in Tucson. Hired a CFO and an operations manager. Year 4, I hit $7.1 million. Started manufacturing some of our own products instead of just distributing. Filed 3 patents. Year 5, I hit $10.2 million. 43 employees. 3 locations. And a valuation of $8 million from a private equity firm that wanted to invest. I turned down the investment. I didn't need their money. I liked owning 100% of my company. Meanwhile, Dalton Manufacturing was dying. I heard about it through the industry grapevine. Tyler was a disaster as CEO. He'd lost clients, including the 3 who'd moved to me. He'd made bad acquisitions that drained cash. He'd ignored warning signs about a major vendor who went bankrupt, leaving Dalton holding worthless inventory. Revenue dropped every year. Employee turnover skyrocketed. The company that had been valued at $12 million when I left was now worth maybe $3 million on a good day. I didn't gloat. I didn't reach out. I just kept building my empire. Until Dad called. It was a Tuesday morning. I was in my office, the corner office with windows overlooking downtown Phoenix, reviewing a proposal for a new product line. My assistant buzzed. "Alexis, your father's online too." I hadn't spoken to Dad in 5 years, not since I'd walked out of his office. I picked up. "This is Alexis." "Lex, it's Dad." His voice sounded older, tired. "We need to talk." "About what?" "The company, Dalton. We're in trouble." I heard. "It's worse than you heard. We're 30 days from bankruptcy. The bank's calling our loans. We owe vendors $600,000. Payroll's due in 2 weeks and we don't have the cash." I said nothing. "I need your help, Lex. I know things ended badly between us, but you're family. Tyler's overwhelmed. He's trying, but this is beyond him. We need someone who knows what they're doing." "You need me," I said. "Yes." "The woman who's too emotional to run a company?" A long pause. "I was wrong about that." "Were you?" "Yes, I was. You've built something incredible, Lex. Everyone in the industry knows it. You're one of the top players now. I made a mistake 5 years ago." "You made a choice." "A wrong choice. I'm admitting that. I'm asking for help. Can you come back? We'll make you CEO. Tyler can step down." "No." "What?" "I'm not coming back to work for Dalton. Those days are over." "Then what? We're family, Lex. You're going to let the company fail? Let Tyler lose everything? Let 50 employees lose their jobs?" "I didn't say I wouldn't help. I said I wouldn't work for Dalton." "I don't understand." "I'm going to buy it. Dalton Manufacturing. The assets, the contracts, the inventory. I'm going to acquire it." Silence. "Buy it?" Dad's voice was faint. "I've reviewed the public filings. I know what you owe. I know what the assets are worth. I'm prepared to offer 40 cents on the dollar for a complete buyout. 40 cents, that's $1.2 million for a company worth $3 million on paper, worth about $2 million in actual liquidation value. And that's assuming you can find a buyer before the bank forecloses. My offer is fair. It's also your only option." "You can't afford $1.2 million. Dad, I don't have investors. I am the investor. My company is worth $8 million. I have $3 million in liquid assets. I can write you a check tomorrow. I heard him breathing on the other end of the line. But you'd be buying your family's company, he said. Your grandfather's legacy. The legacy you gave to Tyler because I was too emotional. Now I'm buying it because Tyler was too incompetent. Funny how that worked out. This is revenge? No. This is business. You taught me that business isn't personal. So here's my business offer. I buy Dalton's assets, assume none of the debt, keep the employees who want to stay, and fold the operation into Apex Industrial Solutions. You and Tyler walk away with enough to pay your creditors and start over. And if we say no, then you go bankrupt in 30 days. The bank seizes everything. You get nothing. Your employees get nothing. And I buy the assets from the bankruptcy trustee for probably 20 cents on the dollar. Your choice. Dad called a family meeting for that weekend. Me, him, Mom, and Tyler. We met at their house in Scottsdale, the house that would probably have to be sold when Dalton went under. Tyler looked like he'd aged 10 years. There were bags under his eyes and he'd lost weight. Tyler. Hey, Lex, he said quietly when I arrived. Tyler. We sat in the living room. Mom brought coffee. Nobody drank it. Dad cleared his throat. I've explained Alexis's offer to your mother and brother. I wanted us to discuss it as a family. There's nothing to discuss, I said. It's a business transaction. You accept or decline. It's our family company, Mom said. Her voice was thick with emotion. Your grandfather built it from nothing. Your father spent 40 years growing it. And you want to just take it? I want to buy it. There's a difference. You're taking advantage of us in our worst moment. No, I'm offering a solution to a problem you created. Tyler ran the company into the ground. Dad put him in charge knowing he wasn't qualified. Those were your choices. Now you face the consequences. Tyler spoke up. Lex, I'm sorry. I know I screwed up. I wasn't ready. Dad pushed too hard, too fast, and I couldn't. I tried, but I couldn't do it. I know. Then why are you doing this? Why are you buying the company instead of helping us save it? Because it can't be saved. Not as Dalton Manufacturing. The brand is damaged. The debt is insurmountable. The client relationships are broken. The only value left is in the assets. The inventory, the vendor contracts, maybe a few key employees. So you're scavenging our corpse, Dad said bitterly. I'm offering you a lifeboat. You're mad it's not a yacht. Mom stood up. I can't believe how cold you've become. Money has changed you, Alexis. Money didn't change me, Mom. Being told I wasn't good enough because of my gender changed me. Being passed over for someone less qualified because he was a man changed me. Watching you all sit silently while Dad gave away my future, that changed me. We thought it was for the best. For the best? Tyler was 28 years old with no experience. I was 31 with 8 years in the industry. But it was for the best to give him the company? Nobody answered. Here's what I think actually happened, I continued. Dad couldn't stand the idea of a woman running his company. It threatened his sense of how the world should work. So he chose the less qualified candidate because that candidate had the right anatomy. And now, 5 years later, that choice has destroyed everything Grandpa built. Dad's face was red. I did what I thought was right. You did what made you comfortable. There's a difference. We argued for 2 hours. Mom cried. Tyler apologized repeatedly. Dad fluctuated between defensive and deflated. Finally, I stood up. Here's my final offer. $1.2 million for all assets. I assume no debt. I keep any employees who want to stay. I give you 30 days to move out of the offices. And I never want to hear about how I destroyed the family business. You did that yourselves. What about the Dalton name? Dad asked quietly. Will you keep it? No. It'll be folded into Apex Industrial Solutions. The Dalton brand is worthless now anyway. That seemed to hurt him more than anything else I'd said. So that's it, he said. 40 years. My father's legacy. Gone. Not gone. Evolved. Under better leadership. Your leadership. Yes, mine. The person who should have had it 5 years ago. They accepted the offer 3 days later. They had no choice. The acquisition closed in 45 days. I kept 22 of Dalton's 50 employees, the good ones who'd been frustrated under Tyler's leadership. The rest got severance packages funded from the purchase price. I moved Dalton's best inventory into my warehouses. I honored their existing vendor contracts and renegotiated better terms. I reached out to old clients and won back about half of them with apologies and discounts. Within 6 months, the Dalton assets were profitable under Apex management. Within a year, I'd recouped my full investment. Tyler got a job as a sales rep at a competitor. He's actually pretty good at it. He just should never have been CEO. We text occasionally, polite, distant, but not hostile. Mom still doesn't talk to me much. She thinks I was cruel. Dad retired to Sedona. He plays golf, he volunteers, he doesn't call. But last month I got a letter from him. It was handwritten, 3 pages. The gist: he was sorry. He'd been wrong. Not just about me running the company, but about his entire world view. He'd been raised in a generation that believed certain roles belonged to certain people. He'd never questioned it. He'd never examined whether his beliefs were based on truth or just tradition. Watching me succeed while Tyler failed had forced him to confront his prejudices. It had been painful, humiliating even, but necessary. He was proud of me. He wished he'd said it 5 years ago, or 10, or 20. He wished he'd given me the company I deserved. He understood if I never wanted to speak to him again. The letter ended. You were right. Women don't just run businesses. You run empires. I'm sorry it took me so long to see what was obvious to everyone else. You were always the strongest person in the room. I just couldn't admit it because it threatened everything I thought I knew about the world. I failed you as a father, but you succeeded anyway. Not because of me, despite me. That's true strength. I'm sorry I couldn't see it sooner. Love, Dad. I read that letter 5 times. Then I called him. Dad? It's Alexis. Lex. He sounded shocked. You got my letter? I did. I meant every word. I know. We talked for an hour. Really talked, for the first time in years. I didn't forgive him completely. Some wounds don't heal that fast. But I let him in, a little, because growth isn't about erasing the past. It's about learning from it. Today, Apex Industrial Solutions has 73 employees and revenue of $14 million. We're on track to hit $20 million next year. I'm 36. I own 100% of a company worth approximately $15 million. I never needed my father's company to succeed. But buying it, saving it, and making it profitable under my leadership? That felt like closing a circle. People ask if I feel vindicated, if I'm glad I proved my father wrong. Honestly, I'm just glad I proved myself right. I knew what I was capable of. I knew I could build something from nothing. I knew gender had nothing to do with competence. My father's sexism didn't destroy me. It freed me. If he'd given me Dalton Manufacturing 5 years ago, I might have been a good CEO. I might have grown it modestly. I might have maintained the status quo. But by forcing me out, he forced me to build something entirely my own. Something bigger. Something better. Apex Industrial Solutions isn't my father's company that I inherited. It's my empire that I built. And when I finally acquired Dalton's assets, it wasn't revenge. It was proof. Proof that the person he underestimated was exactly the person he should have trusted. My name is Alexis Dalton. I run a $14 million company that I built from scratch after my father told me women couldn't run businesses. He was wrong. Women don't just run businesses. We run empires. And sometimes, when the men fail, we buy their companies for 40 cents on the dollar and turn them into profitable ventures. Not because we're emotional, but because we're excellent. My father finally learned that lesson. It cost him his company, his legacy, and 5 years of relationship with his daughter. But he learned it. And now, when people ask him about his daughter, he tells them, "She's the best business person I've ever known. I just wish I'd realized it sooner." Better late than never, Dad. Better late than never.